Guys, our weather has finally hit the 90s. I gotta admit, I'm not loving it. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Liz, and in today's video we are going to be chatting about some audiobook recommendations. I feel like right now, with how chaotic my life is, which we all know, I am in the process of moving.
I know. I say this in every video, it feels like.
Audiobooks have been crucial to my mental health. The amount of driving I've been doing and commuting and packing and just putting my headphones in so I can block out the world while I am able to lock in on packing things up and moving. Audiobooks have been so incredibly helpful with this whole process. In past years, I've never been like a super heavy audiobook listener. Like, honestly, I think I listened to my first audiobook maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. I'm very new to the audiobook game. And I gotta say, once I started actually finding some audiobooks and like narrators that I really enjoy, I have not gone back. I really love audiobooks, and I think that they are great for people who just feel like they don't have a lot of time for reading, like, or if you're going through a stage of life that is very chaotic and challenging to set aside time to sit down with a book. I think audiobooks are a great solution to that, so you can still be consuming stories just in a different way. For people who don't count audiobooks as reading, check yourself. I'm still consuming the same exact story as you. I'm just consuming it in a different format, a different way. And I do feel like this year I've really gotten into audiobooks more and more, and I'm loving them. And I have some different audiobook recommendations. I feel like over the course of just this year alone, I have found so many great audiobooks, and I really want to share them with you guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's video. Starting off with this, I did not put this in any particular order. I honestly just went through my reading journal and I wrote down all the audiobooks that I've listened to this year, and then I narrowed it down by the ones that I like absolutely loved, or just the ones that like kind of stood out to me the most. These are audiobooks that stood out to me for different reasons. It could be that the narrator just did a really great job telling the story. It could be that there were like background music or sounds that they included in to make it feel more immersive. It could be that it had a full cast. There's a lot of different reasons why an audiobook might stick out to me and stand out compared to millions of other ones. Let's chat about some of these. The first one that I definitely want to note, this was actually my very first 5-star of 2026, and that is My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney. This is her newest mystery thriller novel, which it's about this married couple who just moved to this kind of like seaside small town. Our female main character, she goes on a run one morning, and when she gets back to her house, her key doesn't fit in the lock of the house. She knocks, and this woman answers who looks very similar to her. Basically, this woman says, "Who are you?" And then our main character's like, "Who are you? This is my house." Then her husband comes up behind this woman and says, "Who are you?" It's kind of like this mind trip of what is going on. Like, this is my life. Why is this woman taking my life? Like, what is happening? And why does it seem like everybody around me agrees? Like, am I hallucinating? Am I dreaming? What is going on? What I really liked about this audio was that it did include kind of like some background noises. So at the beginning, our main character, she's on her run, and you can hear her jogging, like the sound of her breathing, and you can hear like the crunch of the gravel as she's running, the sound of the ocean waves in the background because she's on these cliff sides. And so this whole like atmospheric sound that was added to the audiobook, I think really added to my experience, and it was like that throughout the entire thing. I loved it. It's what made me fall in love with this book. I could not stop listening to it. I feel like I finished it within a day, maybe 2 days, because I could not stop. I wanted to know what was going to happen, and I felt so immersed in this story. That is why it was my first 5-star of the year. The next audiobook, we have The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. This book blew up last year, and for good reason. This is following our main character, Sybil. This whole book is told through her letters to the people around her. So she has, from a very young age, written these letters to her loved ones, to friends, to coworkers, to her favorite authors. You get told her story through all of these letters. And what I really loved about the audiobook in particular, it did have a full cast of characters. So each letter that is being read to you is by a different narrator. So you're getting different voices, and it really helped me kind of distinguish who was talking and who was sending us a letter. So if it was Sybil's voice or if it was a new character, then I knew, oh, she's receiving a letter and we're getting that correspondence. It really helped me understand what was happening with all all of our characters, and it helped me keep them straight in my brain because there are a lot of characters that you meet through all of these letters. And I also think that the narrator who did Sybil's voice was the perfect Sybil. I definitely recommend it, especially if you are not used to that type of writing style. I think the audio really kind of like paints a fuller picture for you and makes it a lot easier to comprehend all the different back and forth we're getting of her writing to all these different characters. The next audiobook I have is How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates by Shaylee Thompson. I was obsessed with this audiobook. I listened to it on like a car ride and I could not stop listening. The story is following our main character who is having a lot of tough luck when it comes to her dating life. So her and her best friend decide to go on this like speed dating event around Valentine's Day. And one thing you need to know about our main character and her best friend is she loves scary movies. Like they have this poster in their bathroom in their apartment that's like the 10 steps of how to survive a horror movie or a scary movie. She kind of lives her life following these rules. And when they're at the speed dating event, she is on like, I think like maybe her 7th date or 8th date. And all of a sudden the lights turn off and she hears this sound, this like wet gurgling sound. And when the lights come back on, the guy sitting across from her had his throat slashed. It kind of just throws everything into chaos. There's a killer on the loose who is picking them off one by one. Our main character is just trying to survive with her best friend while also trying to find love at the same time amongst all this chaos. It was so funny. I know there was a lot of mixed reviews on this one because a lot of people are like, oh, that's not realistic. But like, if you think about it, this is just like a fun, wild ride. Also, it had the same kind of sound effects as My Husband's Wife. So a lot of like the background noises. If someone screams, you hear like a scream in the background of the audio. And I just think it was so unique and fun. And yeah, if you're wanting something that's going to help get you out of a reading slump, I really think this is a great audiobook to pick up because you don't have to think too hard. Like it's very straightforward what's going on with our characters and it's just a fun wild ride. It's very adrenaline pumping, very fast paced from start to finish. The next audiobook I have is Business Trip by Jesse Garcia. This is a full cast audio, which I absolutely loved. You have many different POVs that you bounce around between throughout the story. So I think it was very helpful having a full cast. This story is following 2 different women and both of them are on this plane to a specific destination for various reasons. One of them is fleeing an abusive relationship and the other one is going on an actual business trip. The beginning of the story, you get both of their POVs leading up to them getting on this flight. And then all of a sudden you flash to the people around them, like friends, family, coworkers. You get all their POVs and you don't get the women's POVs anymore. And from then on, these 2 women disappear and they actually send text messages to their friends and family and coworkers. All the text messages are very similar and it's talking about this guy named Trent, how they met him and fell in love with him. The texts start to get more and more dangerous sounding and unhinged, and you're kind of following along with all of these characters that are in their lives and them trying to figure out what happened to these 2 complete strangers. It was so interesting, and I will say like it's definitely a very unhinged story. I really enjoyed it. The full cast was great. I thought all the voices that were chosen were perfect. If you want just like a really fast-paced mystery thriller that will keep you guessing till the very end, this is a good one to listen to. And the next audiobook, this is one that I just fell in love with the narrator and the voice behind the story, and that is The Road to Tender Hearts by Annie Hartnett. This is one of those stories that kind of took me by surprise. I didn't think I was going to love it as much as I did. I'd heard good things about it, but just knowing what the story was about and how our main character we're following is a man in his 60s, I just didn't think I was going to connect to it as much as I could have, but I was pleasantly surprised. I think the audiobook is what really sold this book for me because our narrator is this older gentleman's voice, and the way he was able to mix in some comedy, dark humor, but also hopeful feelings and just very endearing, it just added to the story, and I really enjoyed the mix of all of those things together. The story is following, like I said, a man who's in his 60s. He recently won the lottery and he decides to go on this cross-country road trip to meet up with his high school crush, and along for the ride he has his daughter who he does not have a good relationship with. He also has 2 children who are technically his great grand niece and nephew, but he has guardianship over them, and then also a cat who can predict death. It's such a fun cast of characters, and I really loved just the narrator for the story. The next audiobook I have is 5 by Ilona Bannister. This is a recent one that I listened to, I think like a month ago when I was going on a road trip with some friends. This is such a fun audiobook. It's also a faster one. This story, it kind of puts you as the reader into this really weird position of where you have to kind of become the judge, jury, and executioner of the story. It's following these 5 strangers who are all waiting for a train at this train station, and you as the reader know that one of these 5 is going to die when this train arrives. You just don't know know who. And so as you're going through the story, you are learning about each individual character and kind of like their background, what brought them to this train station. Also, in between chapters, you're getting flashbacks back to the train station as this countdown is kind of ticking towards when one of them is going to die. And what I really liked about the audio is it does like the intercom sound of like inside a train station, how far away the train is, how many miles, and like how much time it's going to take before it arrives. And it really just added to my experience. I loved listening to it. I think it was just such a unique concept of a story and very different from what I'm used to. I definitely think listening to it is the route to go with this book. I think this book was made to be an audiobook, truly. And the final audiobook I'm going to recommend, I just did this one. This is like my most recent audiobook that I listened to, and that is Yesteryear by Caro Claire Burke. This is a very hyped up book right now for good reason. I think it has a very interesting message behind it. It's also a very dark story as well. So before you go into it, I definitely think you should read trigger warnings or just do some research before going in, knowing what you're getting into, because it is definitely a darker story. This is following a woman who is an influencer. She's a trad wife. And then one morning she wakes up and she is sent back to the 1800s where she now has to live out the life of a trad wife, and she has to live it out for real and not just for what she's filming for her social media audience. This was such a great audiobook. I really enjoyed the narrator who did this story. Our main character is very flawed, and I think that our narrator kind of captured her voice. It definitely drew me into the story and made me want to figure out what was going to happen, what was going on, and if our character was going to learn and grow from what was happening to her. And it just kind of takes you on this crazy journey, and you learn more about her upbringing, and you learn more about what brought her to this point in her life and the choices she's made that and how they've impacted those around her. For any book club, I think this is a great choice. There's lots to talk about in the story. It just kept me very engaged from start to finish. There were moments where I felt physically nauseous from what I was listening to, and I had to stop the audiobook and walk away for a little bit and then come back to it. But it had me hooked. I had to know what was going to happen with this character and with those, like her family and those around her. If an audiobook can do that, then it did its job, I guess. And those are some audiobook recommendations. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, right now I've really been leaning into audiobooks, especially this year and recently because of packing and moving. But I definitely think more people should try it out. If you are not a reader, or if you know someone who's not a reader, definitely recommend some of these audiobooks for them if you know that they have a long commute to and from work, or if they have a road trip coming up or a vacation coming up. If you like to listen to podcasts, then try an audiobook. I think audiobooks can be for anybody, and it's very helpful, especially in such a busy time of your life. My next video, we will be in a brand new location. One actually that some of you, if you've been keeping up with me for quite a while, I recognize. We shall see. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next week. Happy reading. Bye.